Hello everyone and welcome to a wonderful new episode of the StudioMEcast. I have a very, very special guest in the podcast lounge with me today. We've talked about him before a few times in passing and always positively on this podcast. It is PJ Gaynard. He is a director. He is known by many as the Pittsburgh 48-Hour Film Project producer here in the city of Pittsburgh, of course. And he's always doing something. I'm really excited to talk with him. I'm sure we're not going to get through everything because there's just so much to this guy. So I'm just going to kick it off by saying, PJ, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. You know, Peter gave me a tour of StudioME today, and what an incredible spot. I love it here. The guys have worked so hard, including yourself, and it's super cool.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. I got to tour goatmilkfudge as well a while back. I think it's so awesome what you do for filmmakers in Pittsburgh, the work that you do as well. It's just like we both have studio spaces, but we cater to slightly different things with some overlap, of course. But it's like just really nice to have a friendly neighbor and to have you here. For people at home, if you want to start a podcast, check out StudioME. By the way, you can do it in this lovely space. But we're also going to have links to PJ's stuff in the description below. So maybe his stuff caters to your needs better than ours. Whatever the case, we'll be happy to have you. So, PJ, I want to talk more about like where you are now with stuff, but just to start us off for everybody, where did you get the spark, the bite from the bug of film and video?
So it's interesting. I was in college. I went to school for engineering at Rochester Institute of Technology. I really thought I was going to be an engineer. I was excited about becoming an inventor. And I really felt like engineers were modern day inventors. And they are, but they are not the only inventors. Lots of people invent things and create things. And while I was at school for engineering in my freshman year, I was given more than a full load the first semester, and then more than that the second. We had quarters at RIT at the time. So more than that the second quarter, and I had a full and complete meltdown. But in that process of melting down, my friend Peniota Burt and Andy Ghost, they knew that I had a Lady Godiva wig and bustier and garter belts from my time doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show, because the Rocky Horror Picture Show did not save my life, it made my life. It really, really did. So because I'd spent so much time on stage doing Rocky, they said, will you come and be in our short film? And I was like, I don't know what that's like. They're like, well, we're going to go out in the woods. It's about 45 degrees. You're going to wear the bustier and garter belts and then and the fishnets, and then we're going to shoot you for a thing. And around that time, I was dating a girl, Jill Hollub, and she asked me to juggle for her first project in school that fall, so I was acting in films, and then Penny came back to me and she said, hey, listen, we got another thing we got to make. And I was like, do you need me to wear the wig? And this, no, not this time. But we could use help on set. Would you be willing to just give us a hand, just like helping with the lighting or with holding the boom pole or whatever? And I said, oh, okay. Yeah, all right. And I started helping. And then when engineering sort of crashed and burned, and I realized that the written word, as powerful as it is, cannot give you quite as much info as an image, right? Words are only painted fire. The image is the fire itself. That's Mark Twain. Mm-hmm. I always thought about that, and I said, I think this might be the thing for me. So I worked hard. I changed my major for a long time, and I mean a very, very long time. A lot of people said I was just doing it because I was Jill's boyfriend. And then I wasn't Jill's boyfriend anymore. Jill broke up with me, dated this guy, Kurt. And then she married Kurt. She's still married to Kurt. It must be like 30 years she's been with Kurt. It worked out. I'm not mad at Jill. She has a great life. She's got kids. It's wonderful. And I'm not just Jill's ex-boyfriend. I'm a filmmaker. But when I started, everybody around me had started much earlier. At my college, where I went to university, everybody seemed to know they wanted to be a filmmaker when they were like 8 years old. And when I was 8 years old, my parents didn't have the money. They didn't have the wherewithal to buy cameras and things like that. My dad was a plumber. My mom was a nurse's aide. They were divorced. I grew up with them living a block away from each other, and they lived in very different environments. The way that they operated was really, really different. Basically, they had a divorce, and when they divorced, it was sort of like an explosion. And they both went in very different directions in how they just did everything. How they even went to the grocery store. Like, Dad would get food for the night. Mom would get food, the big order, for like 2 months, you know? Just everything that they did was just slightly different from one another. And I could walk in and out of those worlds by just walking a block.
That must have given you an incredible perspective of how just people are different from each other.
Yeah. You know, and I helped my dad when I was a kid. My dad was a plumber. And so, you know, when you meet people, you usually meet them and you get to know them slowly. I go with my dad on service calls. We would walk into a person's house, walk right through their living quarters, up the stairs, through their bedroom, and into their personal bathroom, and then fix their problem. So we were into their most intimate spaces immediately. And so this like ability to see just little bits into different people's lives and their environments, that really helped shape me. So I didn't start with film as early as the people around me, but not entirely, but for many of them, I've continued longer than they did.
That's really fascinating because it's really cool for me personally to hear how different people come to this medium, because there are a lot of different stories. I think one of the most common ones might be, I saw a movie and that made me want to do it. But you got into it by the doing, by production. It wasn't you had an idea for a movie and you went and made it. It's you started out by being involved with actually making something, you know? Like, I mean, you referenced Rocky Horror. Obviously, you had a love for cinema, right? But that's such a cool way that you got into that, and to see how it's led to you to where you are now. So that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing about it is that I was writing a lot of poetry. I wrote a lot of poetry for a long time, and filmmaking is poetry. The scenes that you choose, the moments that you choose, and the order that you choose them is a poetry. It really, really is. What happens within that moment, the way that the dialogue goes back and forth, there is a poetry to it. There's in the choice of what to include and what not to include and when to show it. That is definitely a poetry.
And just because you can see and hear it doesn't mean it's always literal either.
Exactly. And I try to turn my brain onto that whenever I'm thinking about what we're going to show and why we're going to show it.
Do you enjoy poetry?
I do, yeah. I don't write it as much as I used to, which is really unfortunate. But I love it, and I think about poems all the time. I would say this morning I was telling my kids about the Jabberwocky. It's because they make up words. But the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, I quote almost daily. It just lives in me and with me all the time.
That's wonderful. I think that poetry is one of those art forms that has continued to have such a wonderful subculture around it, you know, whether it's through slam poetry, poetry readings, but it's also one of those wonderful art forms that, you know, unlike film, perhaps you can do solo and by yourself, which I just, you know, hot take, poetry's awesome, right? You know, but it's endless how much we can talk about this medium of words as well.
Yeah, so, you know, like that sort of helped me initially. But yeah, it was the doing. But it was the doing plus the poetry, plus the Rocky Horror, plus then when I said I wanted to do it, somebody telling me I was only doing it for some other reason.
What a rude thing for someone to say, honestly.
You know, but that's okay. You know, I don't, you know, I'm not mad at them. You know, whatever pushes you forward to make your work, that's okay. It's okay to have something pushing you forward. Now the work's got to be good. and the work's got to be honest, and it's got to appeal to an audience and to your own personal sensibilities. But what pushes you out the door, kicks you in the butt every day? Man, I got so many things that kick me in the butt.
Well, that's a wonderful segue then into something that I've been curious for a long time about, which is, where do you get your energy and enthusiasm? Like, do you get a lot of sleep? Like, because anytime I like, just you've got this energy about you that is so PJ, that everybody knows and recognizes. And it's not just when you're on stage presenting stuff for the 48. It's like, I've seen you around, and like, just in general, it's like you have this energy to you. Were you always like this? How did this come around? How do you keep it going? What fuels your tank, man?
I've always had it. I call it kids magic. It's part of me, and it's been part of me forever. My wife, so many years ago, I was waiting for the water to heat up in the shower, and I was in there by myself. So I'm dancing, waiting, not in the shower, but waiting for it to heat up. And I'm just sitting there dancing, and she opens the door, and I'm dancing, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm waiting for the shower." And she's like, "This is how you do this." And I was like, "When no one's looking." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm always doing it." And so I don't know. I mean, this is how I operate, is through like an energized thing. I love what I'm doing, and I need the energy to keep going. I have a good bit of energy. I've sort of, everybody's got something, right? They have something that they can rely on. They have sort of like bedrock stuff that's just sort of them. For some people, they got this cynical nature, but they use that to their advantage, right? Mm. I have this energy, and I hope it never leaves because I need it. But I'm passionate. When it comes to filmmaking, I love my wife. I do. But I often say, I'm in love with film. And I've had older people in my life, advisors, people that I look up to, and they say, well, when you're older, you'll calm down. You won't have that anymore. Well, it's year 28. I'm still in love. I still got the energy, and I have no plans for that to leave anytime soon.
Well, everyone's very happy to hear that, because it's infectious and it's a wonderfully positive thing. I love it. So that's wonderful news. So when you're now, you do a lot of stuff. That's the other thing. It's like, you have this energy, which I mean, you're married, you have kids, and you do all this stuff, and it's really inspiring. Just like anytime I see like what you post online, you're like, hey, I'm like on the camera for a major sports event, or, oh, I just did a reading for a feature, can you tell us a bit about this feature? Is that something you want to talk about?
Yeah. So, I want to be making features. I want to be directing. That's what I want to be doing. I want to be doing it all the time. It's not paying the bills right now, but I want it to. I want that. And I know the only way it's going to happen is if I go out there and I do it. I got to make it happen. And then other people will jump on with some cash to help make it happen. So, I've made 10 shorts. I did the short thing, and I love making short films, but there's no money there, and I got a family, and I got to pay the bills. So I know that. I'm still willing to make short films, but I'm not focused on them anymore. Mm-hmm. I want to be making features. I love TV shows. Some people are making pilots, and they're trying to make web series, and I love that. But invariably, there's a lot of asking involved with TV shows. Somebody has got to buy the show's got to get on TV. There's a lot of asking, and I'm nervous that somebody might not say yes eventually. I'd rather be a little bit more in control, and features allow that control still. As difficult as they are to make, they still allow that control. And my friends bear it out, because I see my friends getting them done. So I know that I need to do them. So I've got 4 features right now.
Wow.
That there's a script, or there's most of a script, and now I've aligned myself with. I think we all need advisors, and I have advisors, people that I look up to who've been there, done that. And I've tried to formalize some of those relationships recently so that I could have somebody that I could ask questions to. And the way that you do that is by asking for advice and by trying to help them when you can, right? Be helpful.
Yeah.
I don't need a job from them, although when they can, if that's an option, they'll do that. But I just want to be helpful and around so that maybe I can see how the sausage is made and I can understand how to do it myself. So, but I got 4 features right now. The one, we just did a table read for a feature called Nice Try Kid that I've been working on with this woman, Chris Reeves, and she has been writing that script since high school.
Wow.
And she's not in high school anymore. So it's been something that she's been coming to for a long time, and she's probably rewritten it 100 times. She came to me a long time ago. She had another director associated with the production for a while. They left the project just because it got slow. I think that there may be some process, wasn't moving forward. And she came back to me and said, like, hey, I need another director. And I said, how about me? And she said, great. So we wrote 6 to 8 more drafts of the script. She was very collaborative with me. And that's how I do a lot of my writing, is it's a collaborative approach. Where I'm working with someone else. But I have definite, like, these words, this scene. And the people that I collaborate well with are able to give me the room to say that, And when I'm directing, and I don't know if this is the same for you, the film is revealed to me through the process of filmmaking. So I see it pretty clearly, and then at each step, as each day, I see it more and more clearly, to a point where I say it must be this way, because I see it so clearly. And that doesn't mean there's not room for collaboration or there's not room for another idea. There must be room for new ideas. It must always be alive and be happening in the moment and be available for everyone to participate. But I just see things. I see it, and I'm like, this event is probably what we're going to do, and that's what needs to happen. So, but Chris and I have collaborated really, really well over the last year and a half or so. And so when a script gets to a certain point, I like to do a public table read. It's a party. It's a coming out party for the project to say, like, hey, this is probably what we're making. Let me show it to you. If you'd like to be an investor, we would love for you to get involved. But even if the people who come aren't the investor, you start to get the word out about your project.
Right.
Some people are nervous. Somebody's going to steal my idea. I suppose that's a real problem. I am an idea machine. I make ideas every day. I don't care. I just don't care. There are a million scripts like the script I'm going to write, but it's not going to be like mine. And there are a million projects like the project I'm going to make, but it's not going to be like mine. So I'm over it. That's not to say that there's not a room for paperwork or for non-disclosure agreements or things like that. I think that paperwork, and I have made the mistake when I haven't done it, that contracts are what you do for your friends because you believe in them and because you care about them, what they want and what you want, and you care about them enough to write it down so that, there's no miscommunication because I care about you, man.
And it makes everything more professional. Like, I think sometimes people, I won't speak for other people. Early on in my years with this stuff, the release waivers and stuff like that always seemed like a little awkward to me. Like, hey, please don't sue me or whatever. But what I found was that's not usually how people receive them. It's more of a, oh, you're serious, this is legit, okay, so it's, I think that was an insecurity I got over eventually, you have to, and but kind of reframing it and realizing, like, oh yeah, this is real, I'm taking it seriously, and I believe they can too, and it, like, really, it changed the whole thing for me. So, but yeah, what you're saying with contracts, yeah, absolutely, it is a thing of respect. It is everything you said.
So I've got that project, Nice Try Kid. We just did the table read.
Sorry, a title again?
Nice Try Kid.
Very good.
And and we did the table read. We've got one more polish of the script probably this weekend. Chris and I will have we usually do like Facebook Live or Zoom or something, and we'll have a long session where when we lock in the remaining pieces. We've got a line producer who's already got a base level schedule and budget, but we'll fine tune that based on our changes. And then I've got somebody who's making a very lovely pitch book. It's a multi-page, high gloss pitch book with images of actors we wish we could have in our project. The Nice Try Kid project specifically involves 3 18-year-olds who are just graduating high school, and then some other friends of theirs and family members who sort of like round out the cast. And they're all pretty young, so it's that we want them to look like they're 18. Mm-hmm. And as you know, those people change very, very quickly. So, if you don't get to make your thing for another 2 years, the people who you thought you wanted, you don't want. And by the pictures that we have of famous actors who we're not going to probably get, but maybe it will spur investment. Those actors that are in the book are probably not the actors that we would want because they're too old already. So,
right, yeah.
But so we've got that project. We're going to take, once we have the budget, the schedule, the pitch packet, a couple other pieces. We've got the script and a summary and a character breakdown, all that stuff. Now we've got sort of like a bevy of documentation to try to go and pitch. The first thing I'm going to do is show it to my advisor and just say like, hey, what do you think? My advisor, who I'll just say who it is my friend Brian Hartman. I can't wait to show Brian. If you haven't met Brian, Brian is gotten international distribution, or he's working on international distribution and a distribution plan for his feature film, which he produced and wrote.
Wow!
And then his son directed, and his brother did some of the art direction, and it's a real family affair. Along with 400 other people in Pittsburgh, it opened the Three Rivers Film Festival. This movie, Unsinkable.
We've talked about this on a lot of our episodes. We've had a few people who were involved with the production talk about it. I regretfully did not realize when it was screening, and I missed it. I've been waiting to see it for ages now.
Well, it's going to show up in your movie theater eventually.
Wonderful.
I don't exactly know how all of that is going, but I really, really hope that that's the case. And I don't have any details, But what I'll tell you is that, I really look up to Brian because he's had a number of films that he's gotten out the door into distribution that you can go and buy. And he's not the only person. I look at other people. I look at like Steve Rudzinski. Steve's made like 10 features. Mm-hmm. Hey, the budgets may not be giant, but he's making them. Mm-hmm. I really respect that guy because he keeps doing it. And he's not the only guy, but there are a lot of people like that. And so I have an advisor list that I can't wait to show all of my stuff to, and then get their opinion and figure out, where can we find the funding to get this stuff made. I'm 48, so like I really feel like 50 to 60, if you're going to do something, you better do it. You better do it. Now I got a friend, he's making this movie right now. He's 80 years old and he's getting it done. He's like 4 days away from being done with his production.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love hearing that.
And
that's great.
I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, it's getting done. And it's got to get done. When you're 80, get your movie done because you're like, man, like this is it. So I respect him too. But so that's the Nice Try Kid. That's sort of where we're at, is trying to search for funding and the building of the packet that proves that we can actually get this thing made, that we've got a business plan. Mm-hmm. So there's that one. Got another project. And what my goal is for all 4 of the scripts that I have is to get them to that spot where they're pitchable. Not just a script. There's nothing wrong with having a script. The script is not pitchable, really. It's not enough.
You need to help them see it.
You got to help them see it. You got to have a business plan. I mean, I really think a lot of like what Kaylee Fitzgerald has done with her Mega Deck. I don't know if you're familiar with Kaylee or her work.
I think we've met, but yeah, I'm familiar of her.
Yeah, so for any of your viewers who don't know, Kaylee Fitzgerald is a wonderful filmmaker. She just got a master's degree at downtown at Point Park. She got her master's degree in script writing.
Congratulations to her.
Yeah. So she's made several projects, and she's also involved in Silent Visual Media, which is a wonderful group in town that just made it. They just made a game show that's sort of centered around deaf sign language and stuff like that. So she's got her fingers in a lot of pies. But one thing that she did recently, which I really respect and look up to, is she made a web series that could be a TV show called Swiped. It's wonderful. But then she also made six pitches, 6 like trailers or extended trailers for ideas that she would like to make into TV shows or movies. And I really respect that. And I know that that's the pathway. It's difficult because I respect what she's done because her work looks great. I think it's difficult because it can be really, really difficult to make that video, that whether it's a trailer or pitch video or whatever, to make it look as good as the finished piece when I know that I want 50 people on set for the finished piece, and I want a production designer, and I want my friends who are wonderful to be shooting and be doing all of these different tasks, when it's difficult for them sometimes to come, depending on where they live and what their day rate is.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about the way that you approach directing. And first off is, for all the stuff you do, whether it's producing 48, directing what you've been working on with these features or commercials or maybe acting, what is your favorite thing to do that involves film and video?
My favorite thing to do is probably to direct.
But which part? Is it when you're on set with the actors? Is it in post when you're forming things together? Do you have a favorite moment for directing?
I'm in love with the filmmaking process. That's what I'm in love with. That's what really has got me. So when you're directing, you get to be a co-leader for every department. And you get your way. But you take that very carefully. Because every time you assert your way, if everybody else is saying, no, 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 and you say, it must, if you're wrong, you sort of tramp down their creativity a little. And that's a bad spot. So I really think about myself as the co-lead of every department. I can be part of the camera department and work with the DP. And we can talk about exactly where we want the camera. And then I can leave him or her and go and work with the production designer and talk about the colors that we've decided that we want this thing to be, or to be in the background. And, I can leave them and I can go and I can work with the other people. The one department that's my department, right, is the acting department, mm-hmm. right? But really, the actors are sort of mini leads for their character, right? They say, hey, listen, I did a bunch of research about this guy. And we have some options, and we'll make the decision together about how we want to proceed. But this is all the research I did. Mm-hmm. And I don't have time to probably do as deep of research on every character as the actor did, which is why I worked so hard to help get that actor. When I worked with the casting director, who was my co-lead for casting, right? So I love being parts of all these different groups. And that's really what excites me, is helping to bring those groups together, which is why I often take a hand in the producing, because I like helping to choose who those people are that are with me. And mostly it's not a negative. It's not that I dislike anybody. I just get excited about, I just want to hang out with this person for 3 months. They're really cool. But I do think that's probably my favorite part. And there's no part of that I dislike. It's that we're going about this together. And it's often 2 people, right? It's you and the editor. It's you and the composer. It's you and the actor. It may be multiple actors, but I work actors against each other all the time, and I'm sure you do too. I tell one actor one thing, I tell another actor another, and then they sort of go at each other, right? I mean, you know what they say about you got to be tough on your lead character, and then you be tougher on them, right? Make it hard for them. But I like that sort of. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my favorite part.
I think it's a great answer, and I think that's a wonderful, really great approach to it. It's like it's easy to see how much you do love this, and it's nice to get a better glimpse for me personally as to like why, like what that is for you. So I love that. Now let's you've talked a bit about some of the features you have going on. Talked a little bit about your process there. Let's talk about Pittsburgh in general. Like, where do you see? This is a big question. Take it whichever direction you want to. But I know you're very invested in film and video in Pittsburgh, and like you've helped to cultivate this growing, awesome community in the independent scene. You're involved in like several spinning plates, many fingers and pies, all that stuff. Where do you see the future of film and video going in Pittsburgh, and where do you see yourself in that?
Well, so there's a couple things that I've been trying to do. Basically, I have a list of sort of like things that are important to me. And on that list is creating film culture in Pittsburgh. And when I say film culture, I mean a culture of filmmaking and film watching, a culture that that sort of like shares our culture with the world. And I believe that filmmaking is one way to do that. And that it's the way that I know, right? So I want to help foster that. And I want to see films made here. I want to see people pay their rent through doing it and be able to focus on it full time when they can. But that's not the only way that it has to happen. Weekend filmmakers, I love that. Come on, man. You got your idea and you're getting it made. I love that. Union folks who are making a living and working with some of the best people in the world, and they bring the best people in the world here and they work with them and they mix it up. I love that. That's awesome. You know, so my goal is to create film culture. And any way that I can do that and help foster that in others is a win. And it's not altruism. It's good for me too, you know? And whether that was, you know, a few years ago, that was, I helped with George Jaber, I helped create the CCAC film technician program over there, which a guy named Nick is now running now. And I don't know Nick, but I hear that it's going well. I love that. Or the 48-Hour Film Project, which allows independent filmmaking groups to make a movie in 48 hours. And they're not allowed to write it. They have to write it, shoot it, and edit it in 48 hours. Of course, Peter, it's been good for you.
It's been wonderful. Yeah.
And I didn't create it. It wasn't my idea. I just run it now. There are people who ran it before me. They're wonderful. There will be people who run it after me, and they'll be wonderful too. And there are people who do it in other cities. It happens in over 100 cities in the world. But the way that I try to foster it here is I believe that it can help create a community of filmmakers that are building off of each other and feeding off of each other and making better things because of each other. And I really feel that the 48-Hour Film Project is just an opportunity to create a spark. Then that goes on and they make bigger projects and crazier projects. And you wouldn't be the first person that I have said, like, hey, that's awesome. You made a killer 48. Now make something bigger. Where's that feature? Where's that feature? I need it.
It's in post.
I love it.
Sorry, everybody.
Oh,
keep waiting.
I didn't even know that. I didn't know that.
I don't talk about it a lot.
Yeah, that's all right. I can't wait because I know that there's just a spark. And everything that I'm trying to do is about that. What do I think about filmmaking in Pittsburgh right now? I think there's some incredible opportunities. I think some of them are well known and some of them aren't. The 48, I'm trying to make it well known. It is pretty well known.
Mm-hmm.
It's been going on for since 2007, so a significant period of time now. But there are other groups that are accessing filmmaking in very, very different ways. Like IATSE 489.
Mm-hmm.
Think about everything they're doing and the opportunities to join that crazy brotherhood and sisterhood by becoming a permit. I love that. I look at IBEW5. Many people don't know about them, but those are the people who are shooting Penguins games and Pirates games and Steeler games. And there is nothing like being on the field at the Steeler game and knowing that, like, the images that I'm filming right now, everybody in this city, darn near everyone, everybody's grandma, everybody's dad, they're all watching right now. That feels unbelievable. Like you have, like, it is like a direct punch right into your body of Pittsburgh spirit, and I love that. And when you go to the Steeler game, if you haven't been to a game, or if you haven't been to a game recently, many people don't notice this when they're in the when they're a fan and they're in the stands, they're watching the game. But from the sidelines, I can see every single different type of film equipment you could believe. Red cameras and Alexa cameras and Canon T7Is and Nikon, still photo and video, cable cameras that are crazy, giant box lenses that are 1,000 by, or giant lenses, maybe 1,000 by, not the right word, but entire trucks full of equipment because of NEP, NEP, the largest provider of multicam trucks in the world, which is based here in Pittsburgh. That's what I'm talking about. It's every different size, and I love that. And a lot of that work is IBEW5 work. So it's not well known, not as sort of published as the IATSE 489 stuff, but the video work that they do is the work that many people wait all week to see. Like, they're like, yeah, that's cool that, like, there's a show at 8 p.m. on CBS, some TV show. I want to watch a Steeler game. And when that Steeler game comes on, I don't care what else is going on, I'm going to watch it. Mm-hmm. That is incredible. So I'm excited about all of these different opportunities and the way they flow. I'm nervous too. We're talking about this year. It's very, very early, but the AMPTP is going to be meeting with IATSE, and it's going to be meeting with the Teamsters. Now, that's going to happen on the West Coast, but it will affect us locally, just like the SAG and WGA strikes affected us locally. And I'm nervous, but I'm optimistic that they will find a pathway forward. It's January right now. The work didn't come back as fast as the last writer's strike. In 2007, there was a writer's strike and then almost an actor's strike, but it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And when the work came back, it came back so strong. Maybe I felt that more. I was in LA at the time, so maybe I felt it more. But it seems like it's slower. And it's affecting all different types of people.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing from people, particularly in the unions, is the reaction to, while the strike was going on, thinking like, oh, once this is over, I'm going to get back to work. And now it feels like a lot of people have been left hanging. Which is not a good thing.
But you have to look for the silver lining, and it's difficult to see. But what I will say is that every time there is a negative, there is a positive. And you just have to be creative enough to see it. You have to find a way to find the positive, even in the negative. When people aren't working, if you got a small project, now's the time. Push yourself. I'm a big fan of a certain type of process that not everybody prescribes to. But I really believe in you having goals. And then you have to always be working towards your goals. So I have a list of goals, and I write them out. I put them next to my bed.
Are they just general goals, or do you have is it like a 5-year plan? Is there a...
Well, for me, they're just like things that I want done in my life, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I work towards those goals every day. I look at that list every night. I look at it in the morning, all right? Sometimes I only got a minute, literally 1 minute to work on it. It's all the energy I got left. But if I know that if I work on it every day, eventually something's going to happen on that list, mm-hmm. and it's going to feel really good. But I really believe in terms of filmmaking and my filmmaking goals that I'm always trying to bump up, always trying to get to the next level. I'm always surrounding myself by advisors. And so I know that when I go onto a large project, a feature film, a big project, maybe something much bigger than myself, that I need to look around for the advisors there. And then when I have the time, I've got to make something myself and then use those people as my advisors to then keep bumping myself up, right? So I think, when you don't see the work, the paid work, it can be very frustrating, especially if you're like, no, I need the money, like now. But somehow you've got to turn that into a positive where you say, like, all right, I need to take this opportunity to reinvest in myself, to push myself to the next level so that I'm continuing to grow, because stagnation is real, especially when you reach the higher levels. I think the easiest spot to stagnate is when you're on like a union level production. I remember I used to have this friend, and he was wonderful, and he was an incredible best boy electric.
I always cheer for the best boy whenever I'm like at the movies and the credits go up. I always wait. I'm like, yeah, that guy. I don't know when I started doing that. Probably high school, but I always cheer for all the best boys out there.
Well,
I see you.
If you're listening to this and you don't know what a best boy is, they manage personnel and equipment on film sets. Whether you're the best boy grip or the best boy electric, and some people like the assistant chief lighting technician or the assistant key grip. They prefer those terms because they think like best boy is gender specific, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that if you want to go that way. My friend, he was very good at his job. He bought his house. He had his, he had a wonderful family. We had no interest, and he was very nervous to bump up to gaff. But he became jaded on set. Really, really jaded. He wasn't happy. He felt like he was stuck in a box. And it was interesting because the box that he was stuck in wasn't even a filmmaking box. He was a wonderful gardener, like a really wonderful gardener who knew lots about gardening, could open his own gardening place, could write a book about gardening, like really, really very, very talented in that way, but was too nervous to pursue it. Just nervous about providing for his family. And, so he got stuck. And that being stuck is very, very dangerous because it makes you hate your life. And he became super, super jaded. You'll be happy to know he retired and he writes lovely poetry now.
Wonderful.
And he's a wonderful dude, and he's much, much happier in his life.
Wow, bringing it all the way full circle to poetry. I love it.
Circle logic, gotta have it.
All right, well, I want to make sure that we have time here to talk about some more stuff that you have going on. That people at home, don't go away, people. This is good stuff we're going to here. We talked a bit about the 48. We talked about the 48 a lot on this show, and you gave a great synopsis earlier. But is Pittsburgh doing the AI 48-hour film project? Is that happening?
No, so the AI 48-hour film project is a small fledgling. So basically the way that the 48-hour film project works writ large, right, and internationally, is there is the main 48-hour film project, which is happening in our city and over 100 cities all around the world, right? Films get made for it, and then a best film is chosen, and it goes to Filmapalooza. And there, the best selection of films are chosen and then sent to Cannes. I love that. Then there are genre-specific contests. The genre-specific contests can win the city as best genre film, and then they can go to Filmapalooza. I have not seen them go on to Cannes. They could, but that's really up to Mark, who created Mark Rupert, who created the 48, and then his board of advisors. So I haven't seen it. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened, because I've only been doing this like as the leader for the city, as the producer for like 4 years. So it could have happened previously. I'm not seeing that as much. But then there are other things that they are doing at the international, which are 48s that don't happen locally specifically.
I see.
So the AI one just happened a week or two ago.
Oh, I'm late. Sorry, everybody.
And teams from around the world participated. There were only about 15 teams that participated, but they wanted it to start small so that they could sort of start to figure it out. It's the first time that it happened. And the idea with the AI 48 was instead of hiding from it, let's embrace it. Let's see what we can do. Let's push it to the edge of what it can do. Now, I will say that in terms of the 48-hour film project, although they're trying to be progressive about AI, they're also trying to make sure that the AI that's being used, that you know where the elements come from that are generating that AI, and that it's coming from things that are not being stolen. Mm-hmm. Now, that said, if you've done your research, you know, well, it's not all being stolen. You know, it's just whether it's stolen from public info or private info, but it's putting it into a giant blender and grinding it up, and then you get some of the goo.
I am very happy to hear that there are actually people who are being mindful and wise and cautious with how they're using AI, because every story of AI we have is a big old warning sign. And look, it's coming, but it hasn't been defined how it's going to be used yet, hasn't ended the world yet. And I think that the fact that there are people who are not just going with it, but trying to be, all right, how can we be ethical with this new thing? How can we make sure it's being used as a tool and not, and maybe like it'll make changes, but hopefully not destroy the things that we love, you know.
And I don't want to belabor the point, you know, like it's not my specialty for sure. You know, I barely use the stuff. And so, you know, but I can tell you that there is an AI 48. It'll probably happen again next year, although I can't even be certain of that. They just did it, and they haven't even announced the winners. But you know, if you go to the 48-hour film project, you go to like 48hourfilm.com, you can search around and find some info about the AI competition, and you may be able to see some of those films. I think that right now the films are on display. You might have to pay some small amount of money to see them all on Vimeo or something. So I encourage you to check it out and form your own opinion and do your own research about it. But yeah, so there are other ones. There's one for colleges. There's a high school specific thing. And then there is one in the fall called 4 Points, which you have 3 days instead of 2 days. They've done an animation one. They've done a film de femme one. They've done ones in the fall. They do one called Yes We Cans, which is for the 3 best teams from each competition that happens. The first, second, and third place are given the opportunity to make another film. And so there are lots of different ways to be involved. My favorite, though, of the 48s is the one that happens locally, because I think it builds local film culture, and not surprisingly, that's the one that I love.
That's definitely the big show that most people come out for. It's a wonderful event. It's a great networking and way to build relationships with people. There's so many people that I met through the 48 that I've worked with on subsequent projects, and I'm not remarkable in that regard at all. It's just such a wonderful, brilliant event. It's it's served me well, certainly, and I'm all about it. I think it's wonderful.
Well, and you're not the only one. Although I think you are a shining example of what the 48 can do, and you're incredible what you do. But you look at like Joe Surkoch, he won it the first year, and Joe's doing very well. He's got his own studio space. He regularly creates material. Wonderful dude. And then if you look at Andy Kellerman, one of the best commercial producers in Pittsburgh, I think, and he's had some incredible opportunities. If you haven't met him yet, I do recommend it. Andy won the 48. And when I talk to these folks, they all say almost the same thing, which is like, hey, I needed to grow my group. We bought some of our first gear to do this, and it was the starting point that really pushed us off. And that's really saying something. Mm-hmm. That multiple people can say that same thing, and then they all go their own directions, doing their own things. I love that. I'm hoping to get involved in the 48. Some of the people, I want them to come back, because I see people in Europe, the European teams that are doing the 48, they got grip trucks, they got Alexas, that's how they roll. That's how they show up to the 48. They don't see it as a starting point. They just see it as like something to do for the weekend, no matter where they are in their process. They get famous people. They get in their community, like they get that are just acting and are involved. And so I want to see all those different disparaging groups come back and do the 48, you know.
That would be so cool. Well, I think we'll just, how about, let's finish with just talking about Goat Milk Fudge, all right, which is your production company. And just for that, down the barrel of that camera there, if that camera said, hey, PJ, tell me about Goat Milk Fudge, what's the big deal?
Goat Milk Fudge Productions is my company. You can learn more information at goatmilkfudgeproductions.com. It's a company that I started in 1995 for making film and video projects. It is the name that I go under when I do things. So if you hear about Goat Milk Fudge, you're probably hearing about me. I have a 4,000 square foot studio space. I own 5 or 6 cameras, 50 lights, a bunch of microphones. I make stuff. It's the producing body that I work out of when I'm producing. And that's a little bit about Goat Milk Fudge. I make every different type of production, feature films, short films, industrial videos, shows. I'm a showman. And that's sort of what creates the 48 and a bunch of other things locally.
Phenomenal. Well, everybody, make sure you follow up on that and check the link in the description below. PJ, you've been a wonderful guest. I'd love to have you on again sometime. I've really enjoyed just being able to focus and have the conversation with you. You've been and continue to be, honestly, just a pinnacle of inspiration for so many people. I'm not just speaking for myself, but I am speaking for myself here. You, like, when I think of you, I'm just like, man, that guy just, the energy has, the enthusiasm, the sense of good fun, you know, it's, and like, while still having that serious edge to you that this is really what you do. So, it's just been a pleasure, and I'd love to have you on again sometime, as I said, but yeah, I don't know how to land this plane I just took off, but there we go.
Thanks, brother. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Well,
see you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to start your own podcast, why wait? Reach out to us at StudioME.me, and I hope you hear me again soon.